Welcome into the Source to Say podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball podcast on the KSR Podcast Network, presented by Club Blue. Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. I am your host, as always, Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Very excited to be joined once again by a guy who is trying to cut down the nets at Rupp Arena and could make quite the statement here in the next week or two, but tomorrow especially. Sean, how you feeling? It's game week. It's quite the run for you guys with the Frederick Douglass. How are you feeling? Like, what's the vibe right now in Coach Sean Smith's world?
This is a good distraction from it, is to get on here and talk about someone else's basketball. So no, I haven't slept much for the last week, especially the last 48 hours. I've literally looking at like 15 pages of just nothing but a scouting report that we've been piecing together, and I'm ready. It's going to be a great night for the city of Lexington. I'm expecting if 5,000 people don't get in that building, I will be shocked tomorrow night. That place is going to be absolute nuts, and we can say this now that we're at this point. The two best teams in the 11th region, and the matchup everybody wanted.
Well, it's a good thing that you don't have your hands full in the front court. Like the easiest, some bum named like Malachi, Marino. I heard he's a total non-factor, and you don't have anything to worry about. No, it's going to be an absolute blast. Kentucky signee Malachi Moreno. How are you feeling about that individual? We're not going to give any scouting details whatsoever, because it's your job to shut him down tomorrow before supporting him thoroughly next season. But that's kind of a cool dynamic. You doing this show right before you doing this show alongside, kind of having to coach against him.
Yeah, and we've had him on here a couple of times too, and he's 2-0 against me. This is the third one. This is the one that has the most weight to it. So I'm hoping that I can get one and get to a place where he's been and will be a lot. So I'm just going to tell him, like, hey man, you're going to get to be in this building on this floor a lot. Can you just give me one? Just let me please get to this place and try to compete for a state championship. He's an excellent player. They got a great team, great coaching staff, a lot of D1 talent on the court tomorrow night, both sides. And man, the 11th region has been an absolute just battle and grind. You had 3 teams in the top 4 of the state of Kentucky in the Final Four of this region, and only one of us can go. So this is going to have like a state championship level feel to it tomorrow night. And it's just going to be blow for blow. This is going to be an absolute battle.
Well, we are obviously rooting for you. We're rooting for Malachi's individual success as Kentucky fans, but obviously wanting to see our guy Sean Smith cut down some nets, and tomorrow will go a long way for that. But while you're trying to cut down nets yourself, the Kentucky Wildcats are now in the process of hoping to do so down in Nashville as regular season's over. It's not like snap of the finger. It feels like we were just getting started with this thing, and now 31 games through, and we now have an official bracket. We have a seeding. We have the set schedule. It's time. Like, postseason is here, but to get there, you had to beat the Missouri Tigers on their home floor on senior night, 91-83. Sean, it was like the ultimate feel-good game for me. Just knowing just what that House of Horrors place is, and being there for that game a couple of years back to start SEC play in 2022, that 2022-2023 season, it just had that feel of like, man, like when it unravels in this building, like there's just no getting out of it. I mean, it's just a really, really tough environment. The crowd gets into it. The student section is just massive. And it's just really hard to describe just what the feeling is on that building. And the way the game started, it kind of felt like we were trending back that direction. And to Kentucky's credit, man, they clawed back and basically got to the point where they were on the ropes to start with, and then shoved Mizzou onto the ropes, and then basically kept them there the whole time before ultimately landing the knockout blow. For my money, it was one of the most impressive wins of the season for the Cats, to knowing what it means, knowing that it kind of puts a a historic regular season in your back pocket where you get 8 top 15 victories, tied for most in the history of college basketball. It just really kind of left you with a really good taste in your mouth going into postseason play.
It did, and one went off, I believe, from what our projections were in the non-conference when it come to what we thought would be this team's overall SEC finish, and to go into a building where they'd only lost once, and to do it in a regular season finale. A building that had produced a lot of big wins for them this season in Kentucky, to kind of go out there and not get out to the quickest start. Like those first 10 minutes, both teams struggled to score points. And then Kentucky gets a lead and just held on to it, all the way through. Missouri tries to make it close late, and Kentucky makes the plays to push away. And the fact that that game started, I think, 10 points in about 10 minutes, and you get to 91 still, shows you what they did in the last 30 minutes of that game. But just a great win overall. I think it's a huge confidence-building win to go into Nashville in the SEC tournament. And we were talking scenarios a week ago where they could be anywhere from like a 5 all the way down to a 9 or a 10. They settle in at that 6 seed, and they find a way to get to double-digit wins in the league, Jack, which is a huge accomplishment this year, especially when you've been down guys and multiple guys for a majority of February and March. It's a pretty big accomplishment. But to me, the wins against top 15 teams, you do that in year one of the Mark Pope era. Now, you had an excellent opportunity to do it because you were playing so many really good teams that's not always been the case in the SEC. But for this team to do it in year one for Mark Pope, I think it was a huge stepping stone for the program, setting up moving forward. But I think it's also a huge confidence boost for this team going to Nashville this week.
And we talked after the LSU win on that show that we did from KS Bar, where it became a conversation of, do you have to move the goalposts with this team when you lose your second leading scorer and a guy, a gravity scorer that Jackson Robinson is, where so much of the offense is built around his production, and so many shots are drawn up for him, and just, he's a guy that when he's on the floor, you have no choice but to account for, whether he's, 6 for 7 or 1 for 7. You always have to guard his next shot because there's a very good chance that he can hit that one and then another several. So when you lose him and the impact that he makes on both ends, you then just kind of have to say, does Kentucky have the star power to make a run? And you get that Auburn loss at home where it just felt like you were down, down a star. Like you came up short in talent. And you just wondered if that was going to be the feel, A, down in Nashville, and then B, when the NCAA tournament starts. You just really, wondered about that. And that's what made the Mizzou win so impressive, was you get Andrew Carr back to full strength. You get him playing his best game for my money as a Kentucky Wildcat on both ends. He's all over the place. Energy, intensity, just unbelievable performance for him. And then you get Colin Chandler stepping up, kind of like, hey, can one of the other guys step up in Jackson's absence? Maybe not all of the production, but a good chunk of it. He does that, and you get Trent hitting a big shot. You get Travis Perry hitting. It just felt like that well-rounded, we got enough dudes to win games in March. And that was my biggest takeaway. Like, I just felt like we got the talent gap made up that we felt that we were missing in that Auburn loss. And that's exactly what we needed to feel going into this trip down to Nashville and obviously the upcoming weeks to come.
Yeah, I mean, the freshmen have been like kind of the conversation for about the last 3 to 4 weeks. And we keep talking about being a by committee approach from those guys. You get 4 made 3-pointers from that freshman group, from Trent and Travis, and 2 from Colin Chandler. Colin's probably been the biggest surprise, I think, to this point, because we didn't really know, like, Travis Perry and Trent Noah obviously were getting minutes there for a stretch, and it was Colin Chandler that was kind of still waiting for that opportunity, Jack. And I think the thing with Chandler, to me, has been, we knew that it was going to take some time to kind of shake off the rust of not playing competitive basketball and not playing at this level for a few years. But now you're seeing kind of that long road paying off for him and getting big minutes in these games and just in time, right? Where you're needing somebody to step up and make some shots. But him making perimeter jumpers for this recent stretch has probably been the biggest jump to his game. but just add value, and they're doing it. You don't have to have them do so much because those top four guys that you mentioned carried so much of the weight on Saturday. And that's going to be the case going throughout Nashville and into that next tournament here in a week or so. But just keep getting that by committee approach from those guys. And if you get, maybe it's not Colin Chandler the next game, maybe it's Trent Noah that hits a couple more shots. But to me, it's just seeing Kentucky's balanced attack across the board, but also the way that their freshmen are able to impact winning now just makes this team a lot harder to beat.
And I do want to dig in a little bit more on Colin. Because Pope talked about him tonight in his Colin show and said it was never about confidence. Like, Colin's always been an unbelievably confident player, but it was about just the feel and getting a grasp of the pace and the being sure of himself on the floor. Not that it was minimizing his abilities, but more so how to lay out those abilities on the floor against SEC competition. And he let the defense kind of step up first before the offense found itself. We saw him kind of thrust into that role down in Knoxville, where he gets the assignment on Chaz Lanier, and really kind of takes ownership of that. And it kind of becomes like he became kind of the defensive stopper on this team when we really didn't have one. And when there's so much on this individual, we've seen him step up in offensive situations since then, and hit some big shots and finishing well around the crafty finishes around the basket and things like that. But he gets the assignment on Caleb Grill, who just today was named SEC Sixth Man of the Year. We'll talk about some of those other honors and who got it and who was potentially snubbed there. But you're guarding the SEC Sixth Man of the Year, Missouri's most talented pure shooter, and a guy who has kind of that Jack Golke presence to him. Whenever he touches the ball, you're like, no. He has the lead assignment on him, holds him to 2 of 6 shooting from three, and just, really, really dominant defensive effort there, while also, hitting 2 massive shots and finishing strong around the basket. What was it about the defense to start with that made him such an impactful player and a guy that you could trust to play some extended minutes, and then while letting the offense kind of find itself over time to get to the point where now, he's a pretty darn good player that I personally trust to play however long, Pope needs him in the game.
I think it's been about finding an identity for him, right? Like, just finding something to kind of hang your hat on that makes yourself valuable to the team. And if it's the defensive end that's kind of gained him that opportunity to get minutes, then that's what it took to get you on the floor. The same way at one point, when there was no Lamont Butler, no Jackson Robinson, nobody that could be a lead guard, you had to go with Travis Perry. That was kind of his identity for that short stretch. Now Lamont's back, not getting the same amount of run. But when you're looking for those perimeter defenders, if Colin Chandler can be that guy, then that's your value. That gets you on the floor. But now you're seeing the offense come with it. And I think that goes with building confidence and understanding, hey, my role on this team right now is to defend. I can come off the bench and I can play 15, 16, 17 minutes a night and make an impact here, but I can also make open shots. I can get out and finish at the rim. I can do some play and make some plays for my teammates. I think finding an identity has probably been the biggest thing that every single guy on this roster needed. And I think that we've reached a point here, Jack, where late in the year that I feel like everyone knows who they are. Mark Pope knows who they are. And everyone is adding value to winning. Now, there's going to be nights where, Brandon Garrison's going to have better games. There's going to be nights where, Trent Noah's going to get a little bit more run. It all depends a lot on matchup. It all depends a lot on foul trouble and things. But, the recent stretch, it's been Colin Chandler that's been stepping out and getting the most run of those bench guys. But if they can keep getting consistent production from those first 5, you had Kobe Bryant hitting shots. A deep 3. I'm talking. I don't know. Is there a guy that you feel better about that's just in rhythm and getting separation when he pulls one from about 23 feet? That it's. He is such an in rhythm shooter off the bounce that's an area that I didn't know he had coming into Kentucky this season. But you're getting great balance and effort from those guys. That if you can keep getting that production from Chandler in the defensive end, making open shots. This team's got a chance. I know I said that last week when we recapped the LSU win. I fully believe they have a chance in any individual matchup if they get this type of production.
What did you think of, Pope seemingly tightening the rotation a little bit? And he talked about it some after the game, and kind of said it was pretty situational with it, but did feel confident going with 37 minutes. Kobe Brea, 34. Andrew Carr, and you get guys like Ainsley Almanor playing 4 after seeing a stretch where he was starting and winning games for Kentucky. Travis Perry limited to 7 minutes, Brandon Garrison 10. That was kind of an interesting one as well, as Amari gets 29. What do you make of that? Is that something that you think is sustainable? Do you think that that's going to be a permanent fixture of
Well,
this lineup as we go into postseason play?
which I know Garrison had 4 fouls and things, and I'm sure foul trouble and situations come into it. But when you're on the road, to me, this is one of those that if I were Mark Pope and I were in that office, I was probably treating this like a postseason game, just getting your feet wet of what maybe you want to do in the SEC tournament. Now, when you get to Nashville and you're playing, let's say you win game 1, you get to game 2. Let's say you're fortunate enough and to get to game 3. Now you're getting into some legs. You're probably going to have to look at rotations a little differently in this tournament, maybe than what you will in the NCAA tournament, because there's always that day off in between on any given weekend. But Jack, he's going to go with rotations and guys that I think he trusts the most. And you're going to see it. It's a normal thing this time of year where guys will extend 3-4 minutes beyond what they typically play in the regular season because it's win or go home. And I think that this was one of those, Jack, where Mark Pope looked at it and was like, this is a big win. This is massive for SEC tournament seeding. We need to get this one. I think that he just felt confident with the guys he had on the floor. And when you look at that, the overall minutes, Amari got closer to that number that we've always talked about we'd love to see him get to, right? That 30-minute window, and you look and he has 14 points, 8 rebounds. Like, he was very productive. Like, I want to see, obviously foul trouble and situations dictate this as well, but I do want to see what the rotation looks like in game 1 in Nashville. Is it similar to what we saw in Columbia? I don't know, just because of the way the game flow will go and the number of possible games you could play. I think he's going to have to lean on all of his numbers. But when you get into the NCAA tournament, Jack, I think that this is what it will look like more. I think he will lean on those guys and have those guys play a ton of minutes, but you've got that day of rest in between. And then if you win, you got almost a week off before your next weekend. So, but I do think that this is more what it'll look like postseason for Mark Pope. And I think a lot of it just comes down to you want your dudes on the floor when it matters most, and it's not regular season anymore.
Last thing from Mizzou before we kind of talk big picture with just kind of where the team stands as we head on to Nashville this week. But Kentucky wraps up as the 56th best defense nationally, a 40 spot jump, 50 spot jump from the 112 that they were in that trip to Oxford to start the year, to start the month of February. What do you think has been key to that individual growth? And I kind of did the hand math on it, looking at Bart Torvik, the 11th best defense in the country in that span, and the 8th best team overall since February 4th. What do you kind of give credit to with that? Is there one individual player? Is kind of a team identity thing that you've seen over the last month?
I do think it's a team identity thing. For a stretch there, you could say maybe the schedule relaxed a little when it come to, but then you look and you've played Auburn, you've played Alabama, you've played, all these teams in the back end here that are really good teams in college basketball, can score points. To me, it's more about this identity that this team keyed in on an area where they really struggled. And it got to a point, Jack, where early February we were talking, man, that this team's going to get bounced because it can't defend. But they started locking in. They started. I mean, when you look at the overall scores and things here down the stretch, just they found a way to lock in, to get better, and to kind of key in on an area where they struggled. And I think that you got to give Mark Pope and the staff a ton of credit now to win games in March and to win games in the postseason. You're going to be facing some opponents that are going to be able to put up some points on you. We know that this is an area of the season where guys score points and they make plays with the ball in their hands, especially guards in March. So there's a challenge there. Kentucky's got a few of their own that can do it. But I think just the overall commitment, finding an identity, getting to a point in the season where you knew you were really good in one and you had confidence that you maybe didn't have to focus as much on that area of the floor, right? And you're like, all right, we got 3 or 4 weeks here before the real season starts. What is it that we got to do better to be more effective on this end of the floor? And we know that this has been a team that's not turned the ball over, at a high number. They've also not turned teams over at a high number throughout the season. But I think just finding that identity on the defensive end of the floor and kind of locking in on an area that they struggled mightily for a large stretch of this has been a key thing to get them where they are and trending in a really good direction.
Also trending in a very good direction is our friends with Club Blue. Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. Club Blue was founded by UK fans strictly to support the NIL efforts at the University of Kentucky. Unlike most collectives, 100% of subscriber money, 100% of donor money goes directly to NIL. Club Blue charges no fees. Club Blue subscribers receive some amazing benefits like invitations to special events, meet and greets with UK athletes, signed merchandise, monthly giveaways, ticket giveaways, Club Blue merch, and more. Subscribe today at www.clubbluenil.com. You get to pick which sport you want to support when you sign up. Choose your sport and support with Club Blue. Sean, today, moving on a little bit from the Missouri win individually and more so kind of thinking big picture as we now go into the SEC tournament. We got some big news today that Otega-Oweh has been named second team All-SEC. Pretty obvious selection, if you ask me, just in terms of production, what the initial expectations were for him going into the year and just kind of the staple he's been in the league. But I think it was more notable looking at some of the absences, seeing that Amari Williams did not make it. And if you ask me, I think in terms of just dominating the game and at his position in this league, I think Janai Broom's the only guy that's been better at his individual position. And you just look at some of the other individuals. Lamont Butler had an argument to for some whether maybe not defensive player of the year. Zakai Ziegler got that a little overrated, if you ask me. But if you're not going to give him that, I think all defense is pretty obvious for a guy like Lamont Butler, just again knowing the impact that he makes when he's on the floor versus kind of how things crumble when he's off. So it did just kind of feel like a counting stats list for all SEC accolades, and I don't really appreciate that. I thought if you looked at the actual on-court impacts for some of these guys, I did think that there was definitely an argument for Amari Williams. I'd officially call him a snub, while Lamont Butler, I maybe understand how some of the other picks were made, but just not really understanding the big picture of the award season.
Yeah, me either, because obviously Lamont missing some time, I think took some eyes, off of him and things. And if he's fully healthy for the entire league schedule, then maybe Otega-Oweh was a no-brainer. I think Amari Williams honestly should have been a no-brainer because his impact, and to me, his growth started at the beginning of SEC play. Like when you're just breaking down league play and what he did, you can say what you want about non-conference. I mean, he still had some really good games there, but for SEC play, to me, it was at Mississippi State. That's where I think the light switch came on.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point till now, been one of the more dominant players in the league. And outside of Janai Broom, you're right. Like, I just don't know who else. I don't know if there's anyone else I would take over Amari Williams. Otega-Oweh had an incredible year. And that was your sleeper pick going into the year. I went back and looked at some of our preseason things, and that was your sleeper guy. Good call on that. I didn't think that he would do what he's done to the level that he's done that. And then going on to me, he validated and just solidified it when he went on the road to Oklahoma in an emotional game and just went off down the stretch. I'm like, all right, that guy right there that was so
nuts.
That's one of the greatest moments of the regular season. But him and Amari, I thought both should be there. I would, if Andrew Carr hadn't have battled some of the injuries and kind of the in the lineup and out of the lineup. And look, I mean, Kentucky, just going back to the question just a moment ago about defense, it's hard to really establish it when you're so out of rhythm with what your rotation looks like every single night. And Andrew Carr was out for a significant stretch there, along with Lamont. That does something to what you're trying to do defensively, right? Like, I mean, that definitely is creating some issues for you. So I think that had something to do with it too. But I would have liked to see where Andrew Carr could have been if he would have been full go and not dealing with the back issue and other things, and then just where Kentucky could have been with some individual honors had they had the full season in there. But hey, they got the one. Now you can go into Nashville where you're going to go up against guys that got some of those honors, and maybe you can make a name for yourself there and compete and bring home an SEC championship.
Yeah, bulletin board. It's bulletin board material. I think that's a really interesting dynamic of this, where you get Coach of the Year Bruce Pearl, fair, but he was expected to be very good atop the SEC, and that one is understandable though, but. That's somewhat expected. Player of the Year, Janai Broom. You kind of expect that when he's one of the best players in the league last year, and he comes back. Newcomer of the Year, Chaz Lanier. Whatever. I'm not a huge fan of that pick, but whatever. Freshman of the Year, Trey Johnson. I think that's pretty obvious. He's been spectacular. Sixth Man of the Year, Caleb Grill. Again, pretty spectacular. No arguments there. Defensive Player of the Year, Zakai Ziegler. All SEC first team, Josh Hubbard joins Trey Johnson, Chaz Lanier, Colin Murray Boyles, and Otega Owe. That was first teams: Janai Broom, Walter Clayton Jr., Mark Sears, Wade Taylor the fourth, and Zakai Ziegler. Second team: Josh Hubbard, Trey Johnson, Chaz Lanier, Colin Murray Boyles, and Otega Owe. Third team is Chad Baker Mazzara, Alex Condon, Jason Edwards, Mark Mitchell, and Sean Padula. You will not make an argument with me that Alex Condon is more valuable to his Florida team than Amari Williams is to Kentucky, and just how what his usage is, what his impact is to the offense, and just kind of being the straw that stirs the drink. Alex Condon is a terrific player. He produces at a high level, but he is not a make or break talent in the lineup the way that Amari Williams is. And you look at Wade Taylor averaging 16 points a game on 13 shots. Like you can't be a shot merchant and then pretend to be an all just because you're a high level scorer in terms of just overall production, but when your efficiency is thrown out the window, like you're not going to get that argument from me. And there's just a lot of those kind of nitpicky things. Colin Murray Boyles, second team, great player for a horrific South Carolina team, and then there's the argument, well, you can't have two guys from a team ranked sixth in the SEC make the list, but you get Tennessee getting multiple guys on, and the defensive team. I just think Amari deserved something on there, and it's not it's not make or break, but it's frustrating more than anything.
It's about individual honors, right? Not as much about team success. And I know team success plays a lot into how people vote and things. And Bruce Pearl in Auburn had an incredible year. Like I get, the Coach of the Year things, but when you're talking like Coach of the Year and just what you were given and what it looked like when you got here, like Mark Pope bringing a completely new roster of guys, dealing with multiple injuries, setting records when it comes to top 15 wins in a season at Kentucky, not just anywhere. Think of the guys that have coached at Kentucky in the games that have been played. Surely there was moving closer to getting that if Auburn hadn't had the season that it had. But to have that season in this league this year, like probably the right call to get that. Now they did lose.
I think that's the only reason, because they were historically great. Like if Auburn is just really good, I think Pope probably wins that. Even like a Todd Golden, like there are other guys that could have been in the conversation, but it was the historical dominance that kind of just like, well, you can't not give it to that guy.
Yeah, I agree with that one. They did do some things that I didn't think. I thought the league champion would have 5 losses. I remember saying that. And now they did. If you'd given it another week or two, maybe they get to it, because they did close with a couple. But the league was just a gauntlet all season. They brought it. Now Amari did play very well against Broom in that matchup. That's another reason that I would have loved to have seen him on there. But look, that you can use it now, kind of have a chip on your shoulder and bulletin board material, like you said, and go into Nashville and compete. And I like where Kentucky's at this moment, going into that tournament. You feel really good about it. It's going to be a tough stretch to have to win this thing, but I think fans are very excited about it though. Like I think that
Hmm.
this is something that people are really amped up for because you get to hopefully spend a couple of days or more with this team together, and let's see what this team can do on the stage. And they've shown you when the lights are the brightest, Jack. Going into that final regular season game at Missouri, it was kind of like some of those others that they'd won that you could see a path to win it, but not sure how much confidence you really had, just given you're like, okay, they just got the one against LSU. Maybe they let this one slip away and they don't get it. But the way that they won it and how they won it, down the stretch, I think says a lot about where this team's mindset is entering postseason play. And let's just see what they got. I think that this team's got a great opportunity to go on a run here, and I think they got a great opportunity to go on another one a week from then.
The best time of the year, obviously, here we got SEC tournament, all-time historic SEC tournament coming, and the best app to bet on college basketball, specifically the SEC tournament, is Circus Sports Kentucky. It's sports betting the way it should be, with high and transparent betting limits, the lowest holds, and exceptional customer service. It doesn't matter when they take the court, whether it's spreads, props, futures, or in-game. Circus Sports is the place to bet college basketball fun and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime. Download your new bookie today at circusports.com. Must be 18 or older for Kentucky Problem Gambling Services. Call or text 1-800-426-2537. SEC tournament is here. We're officially here. We get the the good news that it wasn't going to be a Wednesday start. They were just kind of teetering on that 8-9 line for so long, and you were like, man, that'd just be a big old kick in the pants to have to start Wednesday and win 5 games in 5 days. It's not impossible, but it's sure as heck not probable. So you avoid that, then you kind of lock in that it could be anywhere from 5 to 8. You settle in at the 6, and you get the draw where you will face either Oklahoma, number 11 seed Georgia, or number 14 seed Oklahoma, and it will be the late tip-off on Thursday. Sean, your initial reaction when you saw the initial bracket and just the individual matchups and what the path could potentially be for the Kentucky Wildcats?
I'm honestly okay with it. And, Georgia's a team that's been playing better down the stretch. I know we talked about them on here a few weeks ago that, the year had been rough for them, but they were able to kind of get some things going there, down the stretch and league play. But when you look at it, they still finished 11th in the league. So that first game is going to be difficult regardless of who it is. I'm actually a fan that it's the late game because I wanted the all-day build-up. Just the excitement of you're going to get to watch 7 SEC tournament games before your team takes the floor, and then from there, if you win, you go on to play Alabama, Jack. And let's face it, like the last time Kentucky played, they didn't have a full collection of guys in that matchup on the road. So I think Kentucky's in a better spot now if they see that matchup. I think having a game under your belt in this tournament is actually an advantage to not. Even though you can say, well, legs will get tired and things like that. I don't think so, just because I want hey, I've played a competitive game and now I'm coming in and this is your first game in this building. I've already played one, and it's an opportunity for Kentucky to continue to add to its resume. And on a neutral floor, can you get Alabama in what would be the third matchup of the season? Got off to a great start down there, but you couldn't hold on to it. But it's not like Alabama did anything, I feel like, in the 2 regular season matchups to make me think Kentucky, at what this version is of full strength, not be able to beat them. And get past that first one, man. You set up a great one on Friday that I think that building would be juiced for. And let's see if Kentucky can get to semifinal Saturday of the SEC tournament. But that first one's big. Me personally, I'd like to beat Georgia after you let that one get away on the road, and then come back and find a way to beat Alabama. It's going to be fun, but I like Kentucky's path. I really do.
In the Georgia matchup is interesting because that was the first time that we saw this team like have their oh crap moment with physicality and really not know how to handle that in this league. And that was just kind of the first like uh-oh. And kind of going through the full gauntlet and seeing what this league looks like, and just how, learning to adapt to that physicality, and just growing as a team. And we saw how much more physical, and the way they handled like the Texas A&Ms and the Mississippi States and some of the teams that kind of had a similar reputation, for playing a football brand of basketball. I'd like to get a second shot at them, and I think that Pope would be really prepared for that individual matchup. And then I agree. There's this kind of, I don't think the data actually supports this, but there's just kind of this narrative that it's really hard to beat a team beat a team three times. And on the flip side, if a team has beaten you twice in a row, you'd like the opportunity to make it three, because it would be for them really tough to beat that team three times. I would like that on a neutral floor, and there's something to be said in why the Missouri game felt so good to me, that leaving there with a win, because it felt like for the first time in a while that they were a really cohesive unit on both ends. Like they, just it felt like, the group that we have now, and the personnel that we have now, with Jackson out, with Kerr out for the year guaranteed, the guys that we have, we can trust and we can lean on, and we know that the rotation is set. I'd like to see that core comfortably in their new established roles, taking on Alabama at full strength. I just think that's kind of the heavyweight battle that we deserve as SEC fans, and get a real shot at them on a neutral site that will not be a neutral site, because I think Kentucky is going to overrun Nashville. It's going to be an absolute blast with BBN, but I really do like that draw.
I do too. Put the bracket back up there, Stephen, if you get it up there pretty quickly. But just looking at the path through this thing, right? Like, what do we consider success in this tournament? And maybe this is more of a question for people in the comments, because I think everybody's going to have a different opinion. Like we've always said, winning the SEC tournament. In a year like this, it's just so tough. Do I think this team can go on that run and win this thing? I do. I think they can get to Sunday, and whoever that opponent is, I think they'll have a chance to do it. Like, I like that first round matchup regardless of where it goes. I like Kentucky against Alabama in that Friday night quarterfinal. And the reason being is I think that they've had confidence. They played them. Obviously, the game at Rupp, got away late. Alabama made plays down the stretch. Not having, the full roster of guys and Lamont Butler and things against Alabama, that was obviously a tough go, on the road, and you weren't able to do anything down the stretch. But if you can, with this collection of guys, and like you said, Jack, the floor will be neutral, but the building will not be. And then you get into that semifinal, and whether it's, Florida would be the team that I think would be there. Like, to me, Florida, the more I watch Florida, the more I think that's a team that's going to make its run to the Final Four. Like, I think that is a very good team in college basketball, and Kentucky getting that victory, at Rupp Arena to start league play was just massive. But I would like to see that stretch of playing Alabama, get Florida on a semifinal Saturday, and have it be one of those last, final weekend before the Final Four, final weekend NCAA tournament feels to it. Because, that's what you're getting in this league tournament, Jack, is you're going to get plenty of quad one opportunities to even add to what you've already won.
And tell me if I'm crazy here, but if you win that opening round matchup, you make it to Friday, you happen to win that one, and you get to Saturday, adding 2 more quad one wins to Kentucky's 10, which is already third nationally. Why can't Kentucky slide in there as a 2? I think they've locked in a number 3 as is. Like, I don't think we're dropping any further below a 3. But if you can stack 2 more quad one wins on top of it, considering we've already heard the selection committee kind of share their take on Kentucky and kind of what they're valuing in this upcoming, selection Sunday, they are valuing good wins over mediocre losses over and over and over again, while also factoring in injury concerns and how we got to some of those mediocre losses over the course of the season. That's how, when Kentucky was kind of floating in that 14 to 17 to 20 range, most of the bracket metrics had Kentucky further down. you had the actual committee themselves saying that Kentucky was the 10th overall seed as a firm number 3. So if you're able to, from that point, add 2 more quad ones from what it was then, I think that was right before the Texas game, you add 2 more quad ones on top of that, and then you add 2 additional ones in Nashville, and shoot, I mean, say 3, whatever the criteria looks like, but you can get yourself in that conversation on Selection Sunday where you are, if you could play your way into a 2 seed while also having the floor of a 3. And that's what I think you're in a really comfortable spot going into Nashville no matter what, because your body of work already suggests that you are one of the best, one of the best teams in college, one of the top 12 teams in college basketball. Now it's just about figuring out the rest, and you could play yourself into it, being a top 8 team in the entire field of 68. I think that's a pretty unbelievable thing for Mark Pope to say in his first year.
I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like you get down here to the end of the year and you look at the overall body of work, Jack, but you also look at like how teams are playing late down the stretch, and you got a huge win to close the regular season. If you can stack a couple of more quad ones on top of, this closing stretch here of play and what you've done over the regular season, and then you look up and you have a chance to beat a team that's been in conversation for a 1 seed and a 2 seed, and like, what kind of movement happens this week across conference tournaments that if you look up and this is how many quad 1 wins can Kentucky get? I mean, get to 11, get to 12, and you think, all right, maybe this is a 2 seed resume. At least if not, it secures you as a 3 in what you could be. But just the opportunities that this tournament presents to you to win meaningful games that matter. Now, my question is this. Sunday has never mattered in this tournament, except if it was a team fighting for a bid that wasn't going to get one, and that doesn't happen often. Does it matter this year in the committee's mind for seeding just because of this is the best league in college basketball? Is there a team that's fighting for a 1 seed, maybe a 2, that an outcome flips it? Does Sunday hold any weight this year?
I just know historically speaking, we've had this conversation every year and it never does matter, but it just does have that different feel this year that if there was ever a year for them to kind of own their previous mistakes of not valuing that Sunday, that this would be the one. But like, even if you just get to the weekend, like I mean, if you can just get to Saturday and or Sunday, like you put yourself in that position to be in the conversation. And like, I think that's about all you could ask for. I mean, that's a really, really comfortable place to be. But it's tough. It really is. And there's kind of an ongoing conversation, Sean, I want to get your take on it, where people kind of say, like, I don't think that you want this team right now, knowing Lamont's kind of, shoulder is better, but maybe not 1,000%. And, Andrew Carr, he's kind of right where you want him to be, and you don't want to risk any like re-aggravation due to like wear and tear playing 4 days, 4 games in 4 days. So there's kind of some suggesting that we should kind of punt on the SEC tournament in favor of the NCAA tournament. I couldn't disagree more. Like I think that this is what you push all your chips in on and just kind of just play things out as necessary in the NCAA tournament. Like if you look at the latest projections from today, and Joe Lunardi, doesn't matter what he says in terms of individual matchups and where you are, it's never accurate. But to get an idea of who you could be playing versus the path that we're going on this upcoming week, latest projection has Kentucky taking on 14 seed Troy in the first round. You got to win that one. Second round, it's UCLA or Drake. You win that game based on the body of work up to this point and the teams that you've been able to beat. If you can beat, Florida at home, then you have no choice. You beat UCLA there. Your Sweet 16 matchup, potentially number 2 seed Michigan State, playing extremely well, second nationally in quad 1 wins. But why can't you beat Michigan State if you can beat some of the other teams that they've beaten over the course of the season? So you just go down your path and you're like, the path that we're about to go on this week is going to be harder than anything that we see over the next 3 weeks. That's why you push your chips in this week and say you win this, and you just figure it out once you get, once the March Madness tips off.
And this is Mark Pope's first opportunity to compete for a championship. Now, SEC regular season, that one is what it is, and we know we talked about this in the preseason before the year started. Determining a champion in the league is just so difficult because the schedules aren't balanced. Now, Auburn went out and backed it up this year and just beat everybody, but the schedules aren't balanced. Kentucky had to play Tennessee twice, they had to play Alabama twice. It's just the way that's hard to me crown a champion. This in this setting is a bracket where you're seated in your place and you know that your path is this and you got to win so many games. This is the first opportunity. And I think that, Mark Pope knows what this means to Kentucky fans. I think he's going to have his guys ready to play. I get it. You're working guys back. You're wanting to stay healthy for the big one, but you can also continue to build confidence for the one that matters by competing and taking advantage of this. And you can secure your seed. Like I think if you can win a game, if you win two, I think you're locked in where you want to be, maybe with a chance to climb a little higher. But if you win one, you're probably feeling good, but you feel great if you're able to get two. And I think, to me, my goal is I want to get to Saturday. I want to find a way to get to Saturday and then say, hey, it's the semifinals of the SEC tournament. Kentucky fans have been in Nashville for 3 days now. Every bar, every restaurant, everything is just ready. And let's see what the environment's like. And can this team get in that championship level feel of an environment to give it a taste of what it's going to have to do for 3 straight weeks beyond that? That's why this one matters in my mind. It's because it sets you up for success in the next one if you can build confidence here. We've seen the last few years, the losses here tanked confidence, especially last year. I think we all knew leaving that night when Texas A&M beat them that Kentucky was going to have a chance to lose the opening night of the NCAA tournament because of how they played and how they looked. The year before, they were able to get Providence, but still, Jack, you didn't have a great feel about that team down the stretch because of how they performed in the SEC tournament. I want to see this team perform well, even if they lose. I want to see them win a couple and also see where they are against these elite teams in the SEC.
Got a question to pose to you that I think you'll enjoy, but may frustrate you. But before that, quick message from our friends at Monticello Bank. Enjoy the home court advantage with Monticello Bank's HELOC special and use the equity you've built in your home to finance special home products and improvements. Score big with a fantastic introductory rate and attractive closing costs with 20 locations in 14 counties across Kentucky. We're just around the corner, so hurry in and speak with one of our mortgage lenders about this limited time offer today. Find us on the web at mbcbank.com. Monticello Bank, where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Sean, there is a question on KS Board, by the way. If you're not subscribed, make sure you go subscribe so you can ask questions like this and we can talk about it on the show, because I thought it was a really good one. Just kind of peek into the mind of this fan base right now as we go into this really kind of tricky and fun, exciting week. Serial Killer, I like cereal myself, so great username, said, would you rather, 2 options, win the SEC tournament but lose in the round of 32, or lose the first SEC tournament game, but guarantee a Sweet 16. So you're guaranteeing a run second weekend, but you're sacrificing kind of the early embarrassment of that first Thursday night loss in Nashville. What would you say?
If that were one more round, Elite Eight, I would take the Elite Eight. But I'm going to take the SEC tournament this year. And it's tough because we've talked so much about getting out of that first weekend of the NCAA tournament and needing to do so. But we've also, I think we're beyond having to compare what has happened the last few years to what's going on now, but maybe this is the last one. Cal's final run had nothing to show for, from SEC tournaments to NCAA tournaments. This is a tough year. If you can win this league tournament, we know that these fans spend money. They go to Nashville. Don't send them home early. But if you win that thing and then you get bounced in the round of 32, I think I'm able to live with it, because getting one more game, like I said, if it were Elite Eight, I'm taking the Elite Eight every time. Sweet 16, I like the 4 fun days in Nashville.
It blows my mind how many people disagree with you and me, because I'm the exact same way. There are, I mean, you look in this chat and there are people saying, give me a Sweet 16, and I get it. I understand both sides because we haven't been to a second weekend since 2019. And like, I understand the frustration behind that. I have never seen a second weekend in person. I don't know what going to a Sweet 16 looks like. So understand my like impatience with it. But when you have a team constructed the way that it has been constructed, when you have Jackson Robinson out for the year, when you have Mark Pope's debut season that has been historic, 8 top 15 victories, something that only 2 teams in the history of college basketball have matched. Nobody's ever topped that number. This is Kentucky can say that this team has done something that only 2 have in the history of the sport have matched. Nobody else has topped. For that reason, they deserve something. They deserve something tangible to hang on to that we can say that historic season earned hardwood in Nashville, that they deserve for, being, taking a chance on Mark Pope to Amari Williams to be the first commitment for Mark Pope out of the portal and, kind of take a chance with this group and all of them to kind of follow suit. There was something to be said about this group being the guinea pigs and not knowing what they were signing up for, having to start completely from scratch, that the work that they have put in and the success they've earned because of that work is deserving of more, in my opinion, than saying they made it to a second weekend. Because at the end of the day, you don't hang a banner for a Sweet 16. Like, you don't get anything out of that, but you can say that they won the SEC championship in the hardest this league has ever been, the toughest league in the history of college basketball. You win the conference tournament and get to hang up that trophy with confetti falling over their heads. That's it. It is a non-starter to me that if we get a chance to win 4 games in Nashville and have that confetti fall over our head, I don't care what happens after that. It sounds stupid, and I know people will go, you're crazy, you need to raise your expectations. I need something tangible to hang on to, because this group has really, it's meant a lot. This is a really important team, a special team, and I just want them to get something. And if I can only have one of the two, I'm taking Nashville.
Which run is more likely? Do you think Kentucky has a better chance to get a run in the SEC tournament or the NCAA tournament? I'm actually going to say the NCAA tournament, because you're probably not going to play a team in the league for the first couple of games. Like, you're going to line up and play Alabama the second day of this thing, and then possibly Florida. Like, that's 2 elite level Final Four caliber teams that you're going to run through. So I guess that's probably the way you look at it, right?
Yeah,
it might be more impressive to win this than to win a couple of games in March.
That's what Jay Billis said. Jay Billis said that it will be harder to win the SEC championship than it will be to, make a run to the Final Four in the NCAA tournament. There's a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth to that.
I think we should just go on a run in both.
And that's kind of my thing. Like, if you can win in Nashville, then you're playing with house money. This team has earned something. They got a trophy. They got a banner. Like, you can say you are SEC tournament champions. You get that moment, and then everything past that point is gravy. Like, you can now look at the NCAA tournament and say, okay, well, we just beat 3 Final Four contenders with Alabama, Florida, Auburn back to back to back. If you can do that, and then the next opponent you face is Troy, and then the team after that is UCLA or Drake, and then the team after that is most likely Michigan State, and then if you were to get to that point, the Elite 8 matchup is Auburn, the team you just beat on Sunday to win the SEC championship, for a spot in the Final Four. Like, you do kind of say, what is stopping? Like, when you're creating these brackets next Sunday, just remember, like, how hard this like, the reason why you get excited for what they have gone through this season and the the difficult losses that they've taken over the course of the year, going down to Tuscaloosa and losing by double digits, and Auburn double digits, and getting the belt thing. Like, the reason why you take some of those lumps and why you're kind of like okay with it is so you're battle tested when you do you look at your path in March and you go, well, we just the year we went through, I mean, every team we played was a tournament team. Everybody, I mean, the latest projection has 12 or 13 teams in the SEC making the field, and one of the first 4 teams out is Texas. So there are 14 teams that are tournament quality that you already went through. So like,
that's a game you'd like to have back, right? That game at Texas.
yeah. And I mean, Ohio State is the last 4 in as well. So I mean, you're also talking.
That Texas game is the one. If I could have one back in the league, I'm taking it. Like that's the one I'd like to have back to do over. Ohio State obviously may take both of them, but man, this is going to be fun. This is definitely it's. I'm picking them to get to Saturday in Nashville. I don't know if I'm picking them to win the SEC tournament just because I think starting as deep as what you're having to start and play 4 games in this league in 4 days, even if you flipped it and you put Auburn in that spot, I wouldn't pick Auburn to run through the league and do that. That's tough. I think they find a way to win night 1. I think they win night 2, and I think Florida gets them on Saturday. That's how I would predict it in a close one.
And if they do that, I think you should expect a second weekend. And like, I think if you get to Saturday, I do think that there's still a, like, if we're using the measuring stick of what is considered a successful postseason, I do think that at that point that, that you got to get to a second weekend. Sweet 16 is kind of the floor, and then you just kind of hope that you get the right matchup, that you get, the ball kind of bounces in your favor with the path. But I do think that if you fall short of championship Sunday, I think that you got to get to the Sweet 16 and then just kind of see what happens from there.
I agree with it, and I like Kentucky's chances in both though. And if you can get those first 2, and look, you're having to beat a top 5 caliber team and a Final Four caliber team on Friday in the SEC tournament. Like, throw that bracket back up there if you can, Stephen, and just look at the teams that are Final Four caliber that are playing in this thing. I mean, it's that entire list of the quarterfinals on Friday, Jack, are in the conversation to be among the best in college basketball and go on a deep run.
Well, hell, the teams in the first round, I mean, 5 of them are going to make the tournament. Like
this is incredible, man.
Wednesday was seen as the day that you show up and get trashed and like, yay, celebrate Nashville because nobody cares about this day and you're just kind of there to, pass time and it's like your appetizer for the event, but like look at the tournament teams that are going to be starting the event to just like to get their run started. It's unbelievable. Like, I mean,
how awesome is it though that we get 4 games now on Wednesday in this tournament, and no longer, now that it's expanded, not just the 2 on Wednesday, and those two games used to not matter at all, but now there are meaningful games on Wednesday that sets up really good matchups on Thursday. Like, Nashville's winning here because Kentucky's playing on Thursday in this thing. Like, Nashville was like, yes, please put Kentucky here. They were probably begging for Wednesday. But hey, this is going to be an absolute, blast. And just the teams, the matchups that you could see, on that Thursday round. I mean, if Arkansas is able to get by and playing an Ole Miss on that day, and then, I mean, just you got a Texas possible A&M, Texas A&M matchup in the second round. Like, man, this is. Whew. I did see somebody put over under 4.5 postseason combined wins. Where would you go with that line? Over under 4.5 postseason wins total. That's actually a pretty good line.
God, that's tough. Because smart money is 2 and 2. Like, smart money,
Yep.
if it's probably safest to go under and play the 4, but I mean, this team's got some stuff to it, man. Like, that Missouri win, you really did feel so good leaving it because it just it really, they really answered a lot of their the questions we have about this team, and if they are capable of being one of the teams that can make a run. Like, I would personally bet on the under and hope to be wrong. But I think there is a real chance that I could be wrong because they're special. They do have the talent to make a run. It's just you're playing the odds there.
Yeah, I think I would go under as the safe bet with this because like you could win this first one, lose to Bama, and still win a couple, and still get to the second week of the NCAA tournament and stay under, that win total. But hey, it's going to be fun. Let's just see what this team can do. Let's see where they are and do they have a run in them in both weekends.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. You got business to take care of first and foremost tomorrow night. We're excited to see how that goes. It's going to be a blast. Frederick Douglass taking on Great Crossing and Malachi Moreno. It's going to be an absolute blast. And Rupp Arena is right around the corner. We'll see exactly where that's going to unfold. And then we're heading down to Nashville on Wednesday and hopefully not coming back till Sunday afternoon right before Selection Sunday. It's going to be an absolute blast. But before that, message from our friends at Roback, new sponsor, but I got this stuff in today. I got a polo that has Rupp Arena. I'll wear it down in Nashville. I got to wait to unveil my best gear down in Nashville. But Roback, a Rupp Arena gear with this slick pants, perfect. I couldn't be more overwhelmed and happy with it. Best feel, best fit. For those who are not familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roback has been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. Use code KSR on Roback.com for a generous 20% off all new customers through the end of this week. So through SEC tournament play, you'll be able to they just released a game day line with just Kentucky, and it's over the moon awesome. I couldn't be more happy with it. Can't wait to wear it down in Nashville. You will see me on this platform wearing all that gear. So make sure you go tune in and enjoy it. I promise you will absolutely love it. And hopefully we absolutely love how the rest of this week unfolds. We'll see you down in Nashville. I think we'll probably do one more preview show on Thursday morning once we figure out who the official matchup is between Georgia and Oklahoma, and then we're going to do a show every single day while we're down there. What's our specialty? We find time and we find place to do it. So hopefully we're doing 5 shows in 5 days or whatever that ends up being. We're going to be really looking forward to it, and hopefully you are too. So Sean, your job is now to put your coaching hat on and win that game tomorrow night. And where can fans find your work to hopefully be celebrating that win?
You can find my work at _Coach S Smith, and it's gonna be tough. But I moved downtown in October, and every morning when I wake up outside my bedroom window, I can see Rupp Arena, and I make sure that when I open my curtains, I take a look at it, and that's been the goal since October. 32 minutes away from it. It's a tall task, no pun intended.
That indeed it is. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Pilgrim KSR. Make sure you go subscribe to KSR Plus. Make sure you're subscribed right here. If you're not, what are you doing? We appreciate each and every one of you. We will see you down in Nashville. Go Cats.